When I asked about the wedding, my son replied, "We already did it. It was an intimate ceremony, only 200 people. I thought you knew that." Days later, he called me, furious. "Mom, I'm making a fool of myself at the store. The cards aren't going through." I replied, "I thought you knew. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story to the end and comment from which city you're watching. That way I can see how far my story has come." I'm Guadalupe. I'm 64 years old, and I thought I knew my son. For 40 years, Gabriel was my entire world. His father abandoned us when he was barely 4, and from then on it was just him and me against the world. I worked double shifts as a nurse. I skipped meals so he would have the best. I sold my jewelry to pay for his college education. Every sacrifice made sense because it was for him, my only son. Tuesday morning, I was at the supermarket when I ran into Carmen, my lifelong neighbor. Her eyes shone with that expression people have when they're about to share exciting news. "Guadalupe, Gabriel's wedding was beautiful," she exclaimed, grabbing my arm. My shopping cart stopped dead. The air was knocked out of my lungs as if someone had punched me. "The wedding," I murmured, feeling the word come out distorted. Carmen looked at me strangely, her smile fading. "Yes, last Saturday. A beautiful ceremony at the Riverside Hotel. My niece was waitressing and told me everything. 200 guests. White flowers everywhere, a live orchestra. The aisle began to spin. 200 guests. A week had passed since Saturday. A whole week. And my son hadn't said anything, no word, no call, nothing. "Sorry, Carmen," I managed. "I have to go." I abandoned the cart full of groceries and walked to my car as if in a dream. My hands shook so much it took 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. Driving home, my mind filled with questions I didn't want to ask but couldn't avoid. How was it possible my son had gotten married without telling me? How had he planned a wedding with 200 guests without me knowing anything at all? Where was I on that list? I got home and sat in the car for 20 minutes. Staring at the house I'd mortgaged 3 times to help Gabriel with tuition, with his first apartment, with the down payment on his house, the same house where he'd grown up, where we'd spent Christmases and birthdays, where I'd treated every scraped knee and celebrated every achievement. I finally worked up the courage to call him. The phone rang 4 times before he answered. "Hi, Mom." Casual, as if it were any other day. "Gabriel." My voice came out more cracked than I intended. "Is there something you want to tell me?" A pause. Too long. About what? My heart sank even further. He knew exactly what I meant, but he was going to make me ask. He was going to put me through complete humiliation. "About your wedding." Another pause. Then, as nonchalant as discussing the weather, he said, "Oh, right, we already did that. It was an intimate ceremony, only 200 guests. I thought you knew." He thought I knew. As if it were a minor detail he'd forgotten to mention. As if I weren't the mother who'd raised him alone for 40 years. As if I weren't the woman who'd sacrificed everything for him. "Gabriel," I whispered, "I'm your mother." "I know, Mom, but you know how Giselle is about these things. She wanted something small and familiar. Just the closest ones. The closest. 200 guests were the closest. But I, his mother, wasn't included. And when exactly were you planning to tell me?" "I'm telling you now." His tone belonged to someone bothered by something insignificant. No apology, no shame, no acknowledgement. I hung up because I didn't trust my voice not to break completely. I sat in my living room, in the same chair where I had rocked him as a baby, read him stories as a toddler, and watched movies with him as a teenager. Gabriel's pictures covered every surface: high school graduation, college graduation, first job. "Gabriel," Gabriel, Gabriel. Where were the pictures of me? When had I ceased to exist in my own house? That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake remembering every sacrifice. The weekend job I took to pay for the piano lessons he quit after 3 months. The vacations I never took because that money went to his school expenses. The dates I turned down because he always needed something. I remembered when he was 8 and told me I was the best mom in the world. I remembered when he was 18 and promised he'd always take care of me. I remembered when he was 25 and swore he'd never make a major decision without consulting me. And now, at 40, he'd gotten married without even telling me. The next morning, I woke with puffy eyes but something different in my chest. Not just sadness, something colder, clearer. The realization that my son, the boy I had sacrificed 4 decades for, saw me as completely expendable. I spent the next few days like a detective investigating my own life. I reviewed bank statements, something I'd never done in detail because I always trusted Gabriel. What I found took my breath away. Over the past 5 years, I had transferred a total of $137,000 to Gabriel. $137,000 I'd saved by working double shifts, denying myself small luxuries, living frugally so he could have a comfortable life. I called the bank and asked for a detailed breakdown. $3,000 in January last year for a dental emergency. $5,000 in March for car repairs. $8,000 in June for mortgage problems. Every month, something. Every month, a crisis only mom's money could solve. What broke my heart most was realizing the transfers had increased considerably since Giselle entered his life 3 years ago. Before her, Gabriel asked me for help occasionally. With her, emergencies became monthly routine. I called my sister Rosa, who lives in Gabriel's neighborhood. Rosa is direct, sometimes brutally so. Rosa, I asked after we exchanged greetings, did you know about Gabriel's wedding? An awkward silence. Guadalupe. Yes, she admitted. But I thought you decided not to go. Gabriel said you had other plans. My stomach tightened. He said that? Yes. He told everyone you decided to take a cruise that weekend, that you'd discussed dates but insisted on keeping your trip. A cruise. I hadn't taken a real vacation in 15 years. I canceled a trip to see my cousin in Phoenix last year because Gabriel needed money for a car down payment. Rosa, I never planned any cruise. I never knew about the wedding. Silence. My God, Guadalupe. Are you telling me he lied to you, and to us? It seems that way. At the wedding he seemed so calm when people asked about you. He said you were really enjoying your trip, that you sent him pictures of the boat. Pictures of the boat. My son had fabricated an entire story, down to fake photos, for my absence. That afternoon, I did something I'd never done. I drove to Gabriel's work without telling him. He managed an insurance branch at the mall. I wanted to see him face to face. I wanted to see if I could detect the lie in his eyes. Through the office window, I saw him on the phone, gesturing animatedly. He smiled, relaxed, prosperous in a well-cut suit. A new photo on the desk, he and Giselle at their wedding, her in an elaborate white gown, him in a crisp tuxedo. Happy, triumphant, complete, no picture of me. Not one. I waited until he ended the call and knocked. His expression changed immediately when he saw me. Mom, what are you doing here? I came to see you. Is it a crime for a mother to visit her child? He stood, nervous, closing the door. Of course not. It's just. I'm very busy today. I sat in the chair across from his desk. He didn't offer it. Gabriel, we need to talk about the wedding. He sighed, as if I were a spoiled child throwing a tantrum. Mom, we already talked about it. It's over. We can't change anything. Why did you tell Rosa I decided to go on a cruise? His face paled. For the first time in days I saw something like guilt. Well, it was easier to explain like that. Easier than telling the truth. The truth that you decided to marry without telling your mother? That you planned a wedding for 200 guests but couldn't find room for the woman who raised you alone? It's not that simple, Mom. Then explain it. Make it simple for me. He sat, avoiding my gaze. Giselle wanted a specific wedding. She has very clear ideas about these things. And my ideas don't matter? My presence doesn't matter? Of course they do. But Giselle matters more. He didn't answer. That was the answer, Gabriel. In the last 5 years, I've given you over $130,000. Do you know how many extra shifts I worked? How many times I ate beans and rice so I could send you those checks? Mom, you don't have to exaggerate. Exaggerate? My voice rose. I have all the receipts, Gabriel. Statements. Every transfer is documented. For the first time, he looked truly uncomfortable. Mom, I will always thank you. I don't want your gratitude. I want answers. Why didn't the woman who sacrificed everything for you even deserve to know you were getting married? He glanced at his watch. Mom, I have a meeting in 10 minutes. Of course you do. I stood to leave, then stopped at the door. One more question. Did Giselle know you were getting money from me every month? His silence was more revealing than any answer. Of course she knew, I murmured. And she bet I'd keep sending it even after you excluded me. He didn't contradict me. I drove home with shaking hands, but for the first time in weeks my mind felt clear. The woman who raised Gabriel, the one who sacrificed everything, had been systematically erased. And the worst part was that it happened gradually, so subtly I hadn't realized it until it was almost too late. But maybe it wasn't too late to regain my dignity. Exactly 11 days after my visit to Gabriel's office. My phone rang at 10:30 on a Friday morning. It was him, but his voice was completely different, hysterical, desperate, panicked. Mom, you have to help me right now. No greeting. No casual tone like when he told me about the wedding. Pure terror. What's wrong, Gabriel? I'm at Target with Giselle, shopping for the new house, and the cards aren't going through. None of them. People are staring at me, Mom. There's a line behind us, the cashier keeps trying, and the cards keep getting declined. I heard the murmur of voices, the constant beep of the machine rejecting cards. I could picture it perfectly, my 40-year-old son at the register with a cart full of expensive things he couldn't afford while strangers watched with pity and irritation. Did you check your balances? I asked, though I already knew. Of course I checked. Well, Giselle checked. She says we should have enough, but something's wrong with the banking system. You need to call your bank and wire me money right now. Her bank, our bank. For years, it had been our bank because I was the one who handled their emergencies. Gabriel, I said slowly, how much do you need? 800. It's just a small purchase, basic things for the house, towels, sheets, some small appliances. $800 for basic things. The same man who excluded me from his wedding was asking me for $800 to buy towels. Mom, are you there? I need the transfer now. People are staring and Giselle is super embarrassed. In the background, Giselle's high, annoyed voice, something about how mortifying it all was. The same Giselle who orchestrated my exclusion from the wedding was now mortified because the credit cards weren't working. You know what, Gabriel? I said, a strange calm settling over me. I thought you knew. Knew what? Mom, this isn't the time for games. I'm embarrassing myself. I thought you knew I closed all the joint accounts a week ago. Silence so profound I thought the call had dropped. Then his rapid, shallow breathing. What? I closed the joint accounts, cancelled the additional cards you had in my name, and removed your access to my emergency savings. I thought you knew. You can't do that. Of course I can. They're my accounts, Gabriel. They've always been. Giselle's voice rose in the background, higher, more desperate. Gabriel whispered something to her, probably trying to explain without the whole store hearing, Mom. Now pleading, the tone I hadn't heard since he was little. We can't discuss this over the phone. Come here, please. Or, make the transfer now and we'll talk later. No, what does no mean? It means no. I'm not making a transfer. I'm not bailing you out this time. Real panic entered his voice. But our card is full, people are staring, it's humiliating. There it was, humiliating. You know what's humiliating? Gabriel? Finding out from a neighbor that your only son got married without inviting you. Finding out you invented a cruise to explain my absence. Realizing I was systematically excluded from the most important decision of your life yet expected to remain your personal bank account. Mom, this is not the time, this is exactly the time. Do you know how many times I've felt humiliated these last years? Every time I had to choose between paying my electric bill or sending you money for another emergency. Every time someone asked when I'd meet your girlfriend and I didn't know what to say because you'd been dating her for months and still hadn't introduced me. Every time I heard about important events secondhand. We can fix that, Mom. We can talk later, but right now you need what I've needed for years, a little dignity. He started to cry. I could hear the crack in his voice I remembered from his childhood when he didn't get his way. Please, Mom. Just this one more time. No, Gabriel. There is no one more time, so what am I supposed to do? Leave the whole card and run? You're supposed to do what I've done for 40 years, find a solution without depending on someone else. Giselle spoke louder. I caught ridiculous and my own mother before Gabriel moved the phone. Mom, Giselle says this is ridiculous. She says it's natural for children to turn to their parents when they need help. Really? And when exactly did you turn to me for help with the wedding? When did you ask me for marriage advice? When did you include me in any major decision? The only time you turn to me is when you need money. Isn't that right, Gabriel? In the last 5 years, you've called me exactly 32 times, I checked. Do you know what each call was for? To ask for money. Not once did you call just to see how I was. Silence confirmed I was right. Mom, he said, small, what do you want me to do? I want you to learn what it means to be an independent adult. I want you to solve your own problems. And I want you to understand actions have consequences. You're punishing me. I'm setting you free. Gabriel. And I'm setting myself free. I hung up and sat in silence. For the first time in years, I didn't feel that pang of anxiety when Gabriel had a problem. I didn't feel the urgent need to fix it. Instead, I felt something I'd forgotten, peace. The phone rang immediately. Gabriel again. I let it go to voicemail. It rang 4 more times in 20 minutes. I let them all go. Then I listened to the messages. The first, panic. Mom, please answer. I don't know what to do. The second, anger. I can't believe you do this to me in public. The third, begging. Please. Just help me this last time. The fourth, threatening. If you don't help now, it'll have serious consequences for our relationship. The fifth made me laugh for the first time in weeks. Mom, Giselle says we need to talk about appropriate boundaries in the mother-son relationship. Appropriate boundaries. After 40 years of none, after being used as a personal ATM, after being excluded from my son's wedding, I deleted the messages without answering. That night, I slept better than I had in years. Saturday morning, I woke a different person. I didn't check my phone immediately. I didn't worry whether Gabriel had an emergency. I made good coffee, real, not the cheap instant I'd been buying to save, and sat on my patio in the beautiful October light. 17 missed calls from Gabriel and 4 from unknown numbers, probably Giselle. 23 unread texts. I ignored them. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to the bank to speak with a financial advisor. Senora Guadalupe, Patricia said, the advisor who'd handled my accounts for 8 years. I'm glad you're taking control. I've wanted to suggest changes. What kind of changes? Patricia opened my file and frowned. Well, for example, you've been very generous with transfers to your son. So generous that you've seriously compromised your own financial future. She showed me numbers that made me dizzy. In 5 years, not only the $137,000 in transfers to Gabriel, but also $43,000 on my credit cards for his expenses. I had even withdrawn from my retirement early, paying huge penalties to cover his emergencies. At this rate, Patricia said gently, you won't have enough for your own retirement. Your savings are dangerously low. I felt as if I were seeing x-rays of my own broken bones. What do you recommend? First, consolidate your debts. You have balances on 5 cards. Second, a strict budget to rebuild savings. Third, she met my eyes. Maintain the boundaries you set with your son. I signed everything to consolidate debt and start an aggressive savings plan. For the first time in years, my money would work for me, not to solve Gabriel's problems. At 3 p.m., I pulled into my driveway and saw an unfamiliar white BMW. My heart leapt. I knew what it meant. Gabriel and Giselle were waiting on my porch. Gabriel looked terrible, disheveled, hollow-eyed. Giselle looked impeccable, as always, but colder than ever. Mom. Gabriel jumped up. Thank God you're here. We've been waiting 2 hours. I didn't tell you to come. We need to talk, Giselle said, that authoritative voice she used when she wanted results. This situation has gotten out of hand. I opened my door, but stood in the threshold. If you want to talk, you can do it from there. Mom, aren't you going to let us in? Gabriel seemed genuinely surprised. No, Giselle sighed dramatically. Guadalupe, I know you're upset about the misunderstanding around the wedding. Misunderstanding? The word exploded out of me. Deliberately excluding the groom's mother is not a misunderstanding. You weren't excluded, Giselle said in that condescending tone I hated. We simply wanted an intimate ceremony. 200 guests isn't intimate. Gabriel cleared his throat. Mom, we can discuss that later. Right now, we have more pressing problems. More pressing problems? Yes. Giselle crossed her arms. You canceled Gabriel's cards without notice. That's put us in a very difficult situation. Us. Gabriel and I are married now. What affects him affects me. I laughed. I couldn't help it. How convenient that it's us when it comes to my money, but for the wedding. I didn't exist. Gabriel shifted. Mom. Maybe we didn't handle the wedding the best. Maybe. Okay, we didn't handle it well. But that doesn't mean you have to cut us off completely. We're your family. Family, I echoed, bitter. For 5 years, you called me only when you needed money. You don't know my favorite color. You don't know what TV show I watch. You don't know if I've been sick or needed help. The only part of my life that interests you is my bank account. That's not true. Really? When was the last time you asked how my arthritis was? Or if I needed anything? When did you ever call just to chat? He opened his mouth. No sound came out. Guadalupe, Giselle chimed in. You're being very dramatic. Gabriel loves you. He's just not very expressive. Dramatic? I've spent nearly $200,000 on him in 5 years. I compromised my retirement. I worked double shifts to cover his crises. And when he got married, I didn't even deserve to know. And I'm dramatic? It's not about the money, Giselle insisted. You're right, it's about respect. About being treated like a human being, not an ATM. Mom, I'm sorry, Gabriel said. Really? I'm sorry I didn't invite you to the wedding. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. We can't change that now. What we can do is move forward. Move forward, with what, exactly? With our relationship. With being a family. What kind of relationship are you proposing? They exchanged a look. Rehearsed, a normal mother-son relationship, Gabriel said. Sunday dinners, regular calls, family celebrations. And the finances. Another glance. Well, Giselle said, we obviously need a more formal system. Perhaps a fixed monthly amount you can help us with for the new house. There it was. They wanted to formalize my role as their breadwinner, a fixed monthly amount? Nothing outrageous, Gabriel said quickly. Just to help us settle in. $1,500 a month would be perfect. $1,500 a month. $18,000 a year for 2 full-time adults who had just bought a new house. And in return, what do I get? Gabriel looked confused. In return, for what? For the $1,500 a month. What do I get in return? You get to have a relationship with your son, Giselle said, as if obvious, so my relationship with Gabriel has a price tag of $1,500 a month. That's not how we're framing it, that's exactly how you're framing it. Mom, Gabriel said, desperate now, we just need help getting settled. Once we're more stable, we won't need so much support. Gabriel, you're 40. You've worked 18 years. If you're not settled now, when will you be? Things are tough financially. For you, maybe. They've been tough for me for years too, and I never asked anyone for money. Frankly. Guadalupe, Giselle snapped, you're being selfish. Parents are supposed to help their children. And children are supposed to exclude their parents from the most important moments of their lives? I asked. We've already apologized for that, Gabriel offered, weakly. No. You offered a half-hearted apology. She still hasn't apologized for anything. Giselle straightened. I have nothing to apologize for. I simply wanted a perfect wedding, and you were ruining it. I didn't say that, she added quickly. You didn't have to. Gabriel looked lost, glancing between us like a referee without a whistle. Look, I said finally, I'll save you time. I'm not giving you $1,500 a month. I'm not bailing you out every time you have a crisis. And I'm not going to pretend we're a happy family when we clearly aren't. What are you saying? Gabriel asked, terrified. I'm saying I'm done being your financial backup plan, done being treated like an inconvenience you can ignore until you need something. This is ridiculous, Giselle flared. You're his mother. Exactly. I'm his mother, not his bank. Gabriel began to cry. Mom, please don't do this. I need you. No, Gabriel, you need my money. That's very different. That's not true. Then prove it. Visit without asking for money. Call without a financial crisis. Include me in your life without a transaction. He couldn't answer. We both knew why. Let's go, Giselle said, grabbing his arm. Clearly your mother has decided to abandon her family. I haven't abandoned anyone, I said as they turned away. I just stopped letting you abandon me. The next 3 weeks passed in an awkward, peaceful silence. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't buzzing with Gabriel's emergencies. No frantic midnight texts, no calls mid-show. I had my life back. I went to aqua aerobics on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I started reading novels again. I even considered adopting a cat, something I'd wanted since retiring but had postponed just in case Gabriel needed me to babysit future kids. The irony, he never wanted kids, at least not that I knew of, but I'd organized my life around possibilities he never shared. Rosa called one Wednesday. Guadalupe, I need to tell you something. What's wrong? I saw Gabriel and Giselle at the mall. They looked bad. He's lost weight, he looked gaunt. She was furious. I saw them arguing in the parking lot, about bills and money. She told him he had to fix things with you. He looked like he might cry. That night, curiosity beat caution. I drove to Gabriel's neighborhood, not to confront, just to see. The house they bought 6 months ago looked different. The lawn was overgrown. Newspapers piled at the door. One window was patched with cardboard. For a $400,000 house, it looked surprisingly neglected. The white BMW was gone. Only Gabriel's old Honda sat in the drive. A yellow tag on the windshield. I walked close enough to read the tow warning for unpaid registration. The front door opened. Gabriel stepped out. He looked terrible. Rosa was right. He'd lost a lot of weight, dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled clothes, as if he'd slept in them. We saw each other at the same time. For a moment, neither moved. Then he walked toward me. Mom. Barely a whisper. What are you doing here? I was passing through the neighborhood, I lied. He nodded, knowing it was a lie but too tired to challenge it. How are things? I asked, though it was obvious. He laughed without humor. Do you want the truth, or do you want me to pretend everything's fine? The truth. Everything's falling apart, Mom. He sank onto the steps, defeated. Giselle left 5 days ago. Took half the furniture and her car. Says she can't handle the financial pressure. A strange mix of satisfaction and compassion tugged at me. Where did she go? To her sisters in Phoenix. She says she won't come back until I fix my money problems. And those problems are. What, exactly? Everything. Absolutely everything. Turns out Giselle was spending way more than I knew. We have $30,000 in credit card debt I didn't know existed. The mortgage is 3 months behind. The car insurance was canceled for non-payment. I processed slowly. Gabriel, you have a good job. How did you get here? Because our lifestyle depended completely on your money, Mom. Without your monthly transfers, we can't even pay basic bills. His brutal honesty surprised me. Giselle said it was fine because you always help us. She said rich parents always help their kids, and it was ridiculous you weren't contributing to our marriage. Rich parents, I laughed. Gabriel, I'm a retired nurse, not rich. I know that now. I talked to my boss about a raise and he told me what nurses actually make. I realized you've been sacrificing your security for me for years. For the first time in decades, he showed any true understanding of my situation. And what will you do now? Honestly, I don't know. I'm selling things to cover the most urgent bills. I already sold the new TV and the living room set we bought at Target that day. He gave a bitter laugh. Turns out those urgent necessities were easy to sell. Have you considered a second job? Yes. I've applied to 3 places. But, Mom, it's hard. I'm 40 and I've never truly struggled financially because you were always there. How does it feel? He looked at me with tear-filled eyes. Horrible. Like I've been living in a bubble my whole life and it just popped. For the first time in months, I felt a small, genuine compassion. Gabriel, I said softly, do you understand why I did what I did? He nodded slowly. Yes. And I understand not inviting you to the wedding was unforgivable. It wasn't just the wedding, it was everything. The way we treated you. The way you only existed for us when we needed money. He wiped his eyes. After you cut us off, Giselle said awful things about you, things that made me realize she never respected you. What kinds of things? She said you were manipulative, using money to control our lives. She said you were selfish for holding a grudge about the wedding. She said. He stopped. What else? She said you were a bitter old woman jealous of our happiness. The words hurt, but not like they would have before. And what did you say when she said that? He lowered his head. Nothing. And that's the worst part. I didn't defend you. We sat in silence as the air cooled. Mom, he said finally, I know I don't have a right to ask for anything, but is there any chance we can fix this? Fix what, exactly? Our relationship. I'm not asking for money. Just. Is there a way to be a family again? I looked at my son, really looked, and saw something new, genuine remorse. A man finally facing the consequences of his actions. Gabriel, do you really want a relationship with me, or do you just want things back the way they were? I want a real relationship. One where I call to hear how you are, not because I need something. One where we celebrate important moments together. One where you're part of my life because I love you, not because you're useful. His words sounded sincere, but I'd heard promises before. And if Giselle comes back and decides she doesn't like our relationship? He thought a long time. Then Giselle and I will have to talk seriously about what marriage means, because I'm not choosing between my wife and my mother again. If she can't respect my relationship with you, then we need couples therapy or something. For the first time, he set a boundary with Giselle. I need to think about this, I said at last. Of course. I understand. I stood to leave, but he stopped me. Mom, one more thing. I've been going to therapy. My boss gave me the number of a counselor who specializes in financial family dependency. It's eye-opening. Financial family dependency? Yeah. Apparently it's more common than I thought. Adults who never learn to be independent because their parents always rescue them. The therapist says parents and children can stay stuck for decades. It explained a lot. I'm glad you're getting help. I know I don't have the right to ask, but would you consider coming to a session with me? The therapist says it could help us both. The idea scared me, but intrigued me. I'll think about it. I drove home more confused than angry. Part of me wanted to keep my distance, protect the peace I'd found. Another part, the part that had been a mother for 40 years, wanted to give Gabriel a real chance to change. That night, I stayed up late thinking about the difference between helping someone and letting them take advantage of you. For the first time in years, it wasn't a decision I had to make under pressure. I could make it calmly, on my terms. That made all the difference. 6 months after that porch conversation, I'm sitting in my backyard on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and reading about gardening. It's April, and my roses are starting to bloom, the first I've planted in years, because before, I was always too worried about finances to spend on something as frivolous as ornamental plants. Gabriel is coming for lunch today. It's the 5th time in 2 months, and the first time in our lives he comes with no hidden agenda. He doesn't need money. He has no crisis. He just comes because it's Saturday and we decided Saturdays are for reconnection. The path here hasn't been easy. I attended 3 therapy sessions with Gabriel, and what I learned changed my perspective, not just on him, but on myself. Dr. Miranda Lopez helped us understand the toxic pattern hurting us both. Gabriel never learned to be truly independent, she said in our first session. But you also never learned to be truly happy without feeling needed. It struck like lightning. For decades, I derived my worth from being indispensable. When he didn't need me emotionally, I consoled myself that at least he needed me financially. It was a twisted way to keep my relevance. You were both trapped, Dr. Lopez said. He, in prolonged adolescence. You, in a mother role that never evolved. The sessions were hard. Gabriel cried a lot. I did too. But for the first time in years, we were honest. He told me he'd felt guilty for relying on me but didn't know how to stop. He admitted inventing emergencies sometimes because it was the only way to ensure my attention. He confessed that Giselle had been manipulative from the start, but he let her be, because it was easier than taking responsibility. I told him things I'd never said aloud, that I sacrificed so much I lost my identity, that his constant crises made me feel important, even when they stressed me. That part of me enjoyed being indispensable because it gave me power. You both need a relationship based on mutual love, not mutual need, Dr. Lopez said. After therapy, Gabriel and I set new rules. No money. Ever. If he had a real financial emergency, he could tell me as he'd tell a friend, but I wouldn't rescue him. He had to find his own solutions. We agreed I had a right to my own life. I didn't have to be available 24/7. I wouldn't cancel plans to fix his problems. He had to show genuine interest in my life, not just appear when he needed something. The first months were hard. Gabriel filed for bankruptcy to handle the debts. He lost the house and moved to a small apartment. He took a weekend second job to make ends meet. There were times he called crying, not asking for money, but needing emotional support while navigating adulthood for the first time. Those moments were hardest for me. Every instinct screamed to rescue him, to send a quick transfer to stop the pain. But Dr. Lopez had warned me, real love sometimes means letting people learn from their mistakes. Rescuing him now would rob you of the chance to have an adult son, and rob him of the chance to develop real strength, so I resisted. Instead of sending money, I sent homemade food. Instead of paying bills, I offered budgeting advice. Instead of solving problems, I lent my ear so he could think through solutions. Giselle never returned. 2 months ago, Gabriel told me she filed for divorce. Apparently she'd met someone else in Phoenix, someone with better financial prospects. Gabriel was sad, but not devastated. I think part of me knew she never really loved me, he said. She loved what I could give her. The doorbell pulls me from my thoughts. Gabriel arrives at exactly noon, like he does now. Punctuality is one of the many new habits he's developed since taking charge of his life. Hi, Mom, he says, giving me a real hug, not one of those quick, distracted ones from before. How was your week? Very good, I say, and it truly was. I finished the book you recommended, Planted New Tomatoes. And went to the movies with Rosa on Wednesday. He smiles. I'm really glad to hear that. What did you see? We talk about the film while we make lunch together, something we've never done before. I cooked and he waited to be served. Now he peels potatoes while I season the chicken, and we talk easily about our lives. How's work? I ask. Good. Actually, my boss is considering me for a promotion. He says my attitude has improved a lot since I started therapy. He now works one job, with more responsibility and better pay. He learned to budget. He even started a small emergency fund. He's proud of these achievements in a way he never was about the things I bought him. And how are the dates going? I ask with a playful smile. He blushes. He's been seeing a woman named Elena from a bankruptcy support group. She's rebuilding her finances after a hard divorce. They're going well, he says. Elena's different. She doesn't expect me to pay for everything. Sometimes she pays, sometimes I do, sometimes we split. It's nice to be with someone who understands living on a budget. When will I meet her? Actually. He looks nervous. Could we invite her to dinner next Saturday? Only if you're okay with it. Of course. The difference is remarkable. Before, Gabriel would present girlfriends whenever he decided, without asking if I was ready or available. Now he asks permission, considers my feelings, includes me. After lunch, he insists on washing the dishes while I relax. Another small but significant change. Mom, he says, drying the last plate, I want to thank you. For what? For not rescuing me. I know it was hard to watch me struggle, but it was the best thing you could have done. Warmth spreads through me. Gabriel, can I confess something? Of course. These last 6 months have been the happiest I've had in decades. Not because I enjoy seeing you struggle, but because I finally feel like I have my own life again. He nods. I know. I can see it. You look more relaxed, happier. It's like you're finally you instead of just my mother. He's right. I've rediscovered parts of myself that slept for years. I joined a book club. I took watercolor classes. I even went on 2 dates with a kind man from aqua aerobics. Nothing serious, but refreshing to feel like a woman again, not just Gabriel's mom. Anything else you want to do? He asks as we sit in the living room. Actually, yes. I've been thinking about traveling, places I always wanted to see but couldn't because I was saving for your emergencies. Spain, Madrid and Barcelona. And Italy, Rome and Florence. When will you go? I'm thinking October. I've already started saving. That's wonderful, Mom. You completely deserve it. Deserve. For years, I convinced myself I didn't deserve small luxuries because someone always needed my money more than I did. Now, for the first time in decades, I'm putting my own desires first, and I don't feel guilty. Gabriel, I say impulsively, there's something else I want you to know. What? I love you. I love you deeply and always have. But now I also love myself, and that's the difference. He hugs me, long and genuine. I love you too, Mom. And I'm proud of the brave woman you were when you decided to change our relationship. I know it wasn't easy. When Gabriel leaves that afternoon, I don't feel that old anxiety about when I'll see him again or whether he'll be okay. I know he will, because he's learned to take care of himself. And I know I'll see him because now he comes because he wants to. Not because he needs to. I sit on my patio again, looking at my roses, blooming beautifully under the April sun. I'm 64, and for the first time in my adult life, the future feels full of possibilities that are mine alone. My phone rings. It's Gabriel. Mom, I forgot to tell you something. My heart gives a tiny jump, an old reflex. What is it? Elena makes the best enchiladas I've ever had. After yours, of course. I thought you'd like to know. I laugh. Are you calling just to tell me about enchiladas? Yes, he says, and I can hear the smile in his voice. Is that bad? He asks. No, I say, feeling light as air. It's perfect. After I hang up, I sit in the quiet of my garden. For the first time in 40 years, my son called just to share something sweet and insignificant, something that required nothing from me except listening. It's the most precious gift he's ever given me, and finally, I am free.